I'm Monty. This is the Marriage Bites podcast.
We get real about the joys and challenges of marriage through bites of wisdom we have learned over the years.
Our aim is to share this wisdom with you so your marriage won't bite. Hey everybody, welcome to the Marriage Bites podcast.
Take 2.
Funny thing, we started recording and we got about 15 minutes in and we realized our microphone wasn't set right. It was we sounded like we were buzzing.
Yeah.
It was bad.
But we care enough about you that we're going to start again.
So all that content is lost. During that first thing, I actually confessed to a whole bunch of bad things that I've been doing. But now I don't have to anymore because I already did it.
I don't ever know what to say to you. What do we even say to that?
Like one of the things, I'll give you an example. I took a dirty sock and rubbed it all over your hand towel next to your sink. She's giving me a dirty look.
I cleaned the toilet with your toothbrush.
What? Maybe that's why my toothbrush tasted so good the last time I brushed my teeth. Like, this tastes like steak and eggs.
Okay, this is going off the rails really fast. Let's get to it.
All right, zoom in. Okay, tell us about your week.
I've been having a really great week. Monday, I was able to take my harp to a friend's house. I'm a part of the Treasure Valley Harp Trio, and we practiced for our ensemble recital that we're having later in September. Super excited for that. And then on Tuesday, I took my other harp to play for a group of ladies, which was also really fun.
So would you say you're harping around?
Absolutely. Then Wednesday, we had some family come into town, and that brings us to today, where I've been working on a event that I'm doing on Saturday. So,
do you want to talk about that event? I know this will probably air well after it's done.
We can talk about it. There's an event of a gathering of for law enforcement families. There's going to be an author there, and there's going to be some speakers and food trucks, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But
Should be good.
I feel privileged to be able to go there and talk about my business to all these people and find more people that I can help.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that.
Well, I would tell y'all what I've been doing, but it's pretty boring.
Oh, not boring for me. I'm excited about all the stuff you've been doing.
What I've been doing?
Vacuuming.
Oh, yeah.
Cooking dinner.
I cleaned our downstairs room and I vacuumed up a marble and it got stuck in the header of the thing. In fact, it was funny as I couldn't figure it out. I even shut off the vacuum and I was like, whatever it is, it should be popping out. Well, it didn't pop out. So I said, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to keep going. So I kept going. You could hear this thing rattling around. And finally, Andalyn came downstairs. She's like, what is that? What is that noise? I'm like, I don't know. Something got picked up in the thing. I can't get it out. I'm just going to keep vacuuming. She's like, you can take it apart and get it out. And I'm like, I don't take this thing apart. I don't know what I'm doing. So she quickly pulled it apart, and sure enough, there was a marble. Look, I'm trying to do good as a
What's funny is,
house husband.
Sounds like I'm the one who knows how to fix things around here.
Sure. Will you get on fixing the fridge then?
I could. I took it apart once.
I know. You should fix it. For the record, I fix a lot of things.
All I need is the parts.
Like I put a timing belt in a car.
Yeah, he fixes the big things and I fix the little things.
Yeah.
We have a pretty good arrangement happening here.
And I've been doing some cooking. I cooked some dinner most days. I made some peanut butter chocolate chip cookies.
They were amazing.
They're still moist and we're running on day 4.
It's amazing there are any left by now.
It is amazing. Of course, grandmas came. One of them loves to go to Costco and buy junk food. And I think the kids have been eating that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like donuts and stuff like that. So.
Okay.
What else have I been doing? I've been preparing for hunting season. Mm-hmm. I've been making some ammunition and getting things checked my zeros on my rifles. For those of you out there who don't agree with hunting, I totally get it. It's not for everybody. I've chosen to hunt because I think I practice good sustainable hunting. Mm-hmm. I think of myself as a conservationist. I don't shoot everything that I see. I try to make good, clean kills, and the meat is, frankly, I know that it's not been tampered with. I know that it's good, and we only shoot what we need and leave the rest for others.
Yep.
So,
well, and in addition, it's time you get to spend with our boys.
Yeah.
Out in nature, experiencing the world.
Getting dirty, eating junk food.
Getting away from the TVs and the computers.
That's right. So that's what I've been doing. Moving on.
So you have something you'd like to share?
Well, I don't know if I would like to share it, but it goes along with our theme today. Hopefully everyone can figure out what the theme is. I think we'll say it probably 20 times. So for those who don't know, who've maybe tuning in for the first time to the podcast, I'm a law enforcement officer. That's what I do for work. That's one of the hats I put on during the week. Mm-hmm. I wear a lot of different hats. I don't necessarily identify as a law enforcement officer. Some people make that all about their identity. I don't necessarily do that. I think I did when I was younger, but not so much anymore. Anyway, so I've been working a grave shift since January 1st. And that means I work all night, a 10-hour shift. And it takes a lot of time out of you, even on your days off. It takes a lot out of you because everyone else in the world is operating on a day shift, mode, and I was operating on a night shift mode. And so it's really tough, especially with a family. And after some time, I would say probably a month and a half ago, I realized something just wasn't right. I feel like my relationship with my wife was strained. I feel like my relationship with my family was strained. It was just, something wasn't right. Something just was not right with me. Mm-hmm. And I started analyzing it. And I thought, man, what is this? Why am I guess I was feeling annoyed or angry and just felt like things were starting like on the verge of falling apart. And I realized that my life was out of balance. I started doing some research into it. And like I said, I did some meditating on what it could be. I realized there was things out of balance. I was spending all of my time in work mode and none of my time for my family. I wasn't taking any time for myself. I wasn't taking any time for my spiritual growth. And it was taking a toll on things. I found that my wife and I, we were arguing about things more. My kids were annoying me more. Like I said, church activities were kind of aggravating me. And
well, they were pretty much non-existent.
Yeah, they were non-existent because I wasn't going to church.
But the things that you were doing.
Oh, the church things I were doing felt like a drag. And they felt like they were getting in the way. Because for me, my family is the most important thing. And I feel like work and church were getting in the way of my family. And it was really bothering me. So during my ponderous time, I listened to a TED Talk by Nigel Marsh. I believe he's from Australia. And his whole thing is talking about work-life balance. And, well, this TED Talk is a really good TED Talk. He kind of takes what everyone's been saying about work-life balance and he kind of turns it on its head. He says there's a lot of things that are being taught about that just aren't worth anything. And I think it's well worth a listen. I think it's 10 minutes long. And I would like to say it was life transforming, but I don't think it was quite that. But it was pretty impactful. And
it's pretty thought-provoking.
It was pretty thought-provoking. And so I started working on spending more time with my wife, spending more time with my kids, just little things, doing the little things, and trying to disconnect from work when I came home. Because that transition from going to grave shift to day shift for my 3 days off was really tough. That's what I've been doing. I don't think I've arrived yet. I think with any journey of change, it takes time. And I think when people think that, well, I've identified what's wrong, I should be able to make a change and turn on a dime, I think that can be really frustrating and really defeating. And that's not how it goes. We start making incremental changes, and we will eventually begin seeing things change.
Well, I've noticed a change, and one of the things that I really appreciate that you actually instigated is what you called a mini date.
The mini date.
Sometimes if you're going to work in the evening and we have the kids and dinner and homework and all those things to do, we may not have time to take a full hour or two to go on what you could call a real date. So we would take a mini date where we would just go for a quick drive or maybe walk around the neighborhood or get a little treat from Dairy Queen or just a thing that would maybe only take 20 minutes. But when you do those frequently, you're having that time to actually really connect. And it's not only about being together, it's also about being intentional about what you're talking about in that time. To go beyond talking the logistics of the family and really get into what you're thinking and feeling and what's been concerning for you or what you've been really excited about. Just talking about really what's going on in each of our inner worlds and sharing that with each other, for me, really has increased the connection that I feel. Even though it's just these little tiny things, the more often has really helped me to feel closer.
Yeah, I like what you said there. You have to be intentional, because those mini dates, like you say, there's not a lot of time to get into the weeds of things unless if you intentionally do it. And that means you can start out by talking about the difficult things. And it takes both of you to be grown-ups to do that. You both have to be mature enough to not turn that into a fight.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy.
And it's easy when a spouse has some constructive criticism for you to take it personally. If they're saying, I've been upset by this thing that you're doing or something, that taking it personally is just an argument. That's just, sort of being a child about it.
Right.
But understanding there's truth in what they're saying. What is the truth? Am I really being indulgent here? Or am I really acting in a way that I'm not proud of? And
right.
What could I do to change that? Or if you're upset about something and it's really not my fault, not taking on the blame for myself, just saying, I see he's upset. It's not my fault. That doesn't mean that I can't do something to try to make it better. But if I'm taking it personally, then I find myself going into reactive mode, or I want to be defensive, like, well, I didn't do that. It's not my fault. And then that just increases friction.
Right. I think that's why it requires maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's easier said than done, because we are immature people. Everybody is. I've even heard of professionals who talk about how they fall into that occasionally from time to time. And like I said earlier, we make incremental changes, and it's okay if we screw up, but we should continue to strive to be better.
Yeah.
I will say that sometimes when, if there's something that's upsetting me, sometimes I just want to tell you, I'm not looking at you to fix it. I'm just telling you how I feel, because sometimes there's not a fix. Sometimes I just need to vent. Yeah. And it's okay. Yeah. And sometimes that requires me to say, I just need to vent. I think we're kind of getting off the weeds here, though,
a little bit,
from our topic, but I think it's important to talk about these mini dates.
Yeah.
I want everyone to take from this that it's the small and simple things that really matter. And these mini dates are something that we've started doing together as a couple. And I mean, sometimes we don't even know we're going to do it until a few minutes beforehand. We're like, hey, we're not doing anything. Let's go on a mini date. Ha ha. And then we'll take off, leave the kids. And the kids are like, wait, what? Where'd mom and dad go?
Right. And I think you can develop the same amount of connection, or even more, in 20 minutes every few days as you would in a whole weekend together.
Sure. I think you're right. I know Nigel Marsh, speaking of that TED Talk, and yes, we do endorse TED Talks. Don't agree with everything they say, but a lot of things are really thought-provoking. And I think that's important to listen to all sides. Anyway, he talked about taking small steps or doing small things that really matter. And he talked about an instance with his son where his wife called him at work and said, hey, honey, I need you to pick up our youngest son at school and take him, for the evening, because I have to take our other boys and do something. And so he talked about leaving work just a little bit early and going picking up his son. And from there, he took his son to a park. They played some silly games, I think is as he put it. And then they went out for a pizza. And from there, he took him home and gave him a bath and got him in his PJs and then read him a story and then tucked him into bed. But it was really a good moment for him.
Yeah.
About what his son said. He said, I didn't do anything, but it was such an impactful thing for his son. And I think it was impactful for him. And that doesn't take a lot of time and effort. Doing just something little with your kids each day, or doing something little, taking a little bit of time for your wife each day, is what matters. It's those small and simple things that matter. I think that's what I want people to really take from this, is that doing those small things can really improve what matters in your life. And I think it can start moving you toward having more of a balanced life. I'm not saying it's going to fix everything, but I think it can really improve things.
Moves you in the right direction.
I think it really does.
For sure.
And over time, I think it will get you someplace you want to be.
Yes.
And perhaps faster than you think.
I was thinking about this, and for you have like a specific container for your work time. So you leave the house, you drive to your work, you do your work, then you leave work and you come home. Because of the job you do, you really can't bring your work home.
Wouldn't that be funny? I come home, I got a couple guys. Well, these guys did something wrong. They're going to stay in handcuffs all night, but they're going to be sleeping on the couch.
Don't worry.
Don't worry, I'll take them back to work tomorrow. Oh, by the way, here's this 2 pounds of methamphetamine. You know,
Book it into evidence tomorrow.
Yeah. I have to draw this guy's blood who's a DUI. I'm going to put this in our fridge overnight.
Okay.
Don't let me forget it.
Oh my gosh.
All right, that's a little bit of cop humor.
Why? Okay. So, because I've been a work-at-home mom and, stay-at-home mom, my work has been here. And so I don't have a specific container for work time and family time and for spirituality or for self-care. For me, it's been a little bit more difficult to have like containers of time because I might sit down to read a book or watch something that I enjoy or do something for myself, a little rest. And then 5 minutes later, some kid is like, Mom, can you sign this? Mom, can you take me to the store right now? Because I need something right now. Or they, Mom, I need you to wash my clothes right now because I don't have anything to wear to school tomorrow.
It kind of reminds me of that line from the movie Hook. What is it?
I want, me, mine.
We highly endorse you to watch the movie Hook.
That was one of my family's favorite lines from that whole show.
Yeah, it was a funny show. What was that, 1989 or something like that? Or 1991? Or it's older, but it's a goodie.
It is difficult for me to really put boundaries around my time because my children are important and what they need is important to me. But it all kind of just jumbles up into one big container. It kind of gets all mixed up for me. And so sometimes I really have to be intentional about finishing a thing that I want to finish. Or sometimes I tell my kids, no, don't tell anybody. I just tell them, no, I am doing this right now. Come back to me in an hour. Or come back to me in 15 minutes when I'm finished.
Sometimes you have to set those boundaries
to
your kids.
But I didn't always do that. A lot of times it was like, drop everything you're doing and go save everybody. But I'm realizing that was not really good for me or for them, actually. Because sometimes
they might realize they can fix their problem too.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say. Sometimes I leave them to their own devices and they figure it out on their own. And then I come later and they're like, no, I figured it out. And they didn't even need me at all.
So, funny anecdote about that. We recently, our kids acquired a gas-powered weed eater, and we let them work it out. Next thing we know, they have the weed eater completely taken apart. All the pieces everywhere. There's pistons here, and there's a valve there. I mean, it was ridiculous.
I'm still finding pieces of that thing all
over
the
know.
house.
It's been, 2 months, and I saw the piston in the crankcase or crankshaft the other day. I'm
why?
Like, what the heck is going on?
Something that I've heard a lot of moms run into is when they're working, they're feeling guilty that they should be with their kids. But then when they're with their kids, all they can think about is what they need to be doing for their work. And it's a really common problem. And I can't say that I haven't had that problem too. But I think when you have the mindset to really define time boundaries, you can say, listen, I'm going to work until 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, then I'm going to put my work away and then intentionally spend time with the kids. Or then it will be time to cook dinner, or then it will be time to do the next thing. And planning ahead of time. I cannot stress how important it is to plan ahead of time. I used to never plan ahead of time. But I've been starting to do that this past couple years or so. And it has made a huge difference in what I'm able to accomplish and still take care of myself and still have the time that I need to fill all of my different buckets.
I would say all of the very successful people out in the world who are successful financially or in life, they plan. Must be something to it.
Right, and then you can say, this is my business time. I can devote all of my time and attention to my business at this time. I know that the others in my family are taken care of, and whatever needs that they have, I will take care of them at a specific time.
Right. Not to say that sometimes emergencies arise and you have to...
Like when your teenager locks himself out of his car.
Or one of your kids hits the other kid in the head with a shovel.
Or somebody gets burned on a piece of metal that they stuck in the fire.
That might be a little bit unique about us, is that we have 6 boys, and they... I don't know, if you've ever read Lord of the Flies, it kind of gets that way.
If you've ever watched the show Malcolm in the Middle, that's our family.
Oh, yeah. Malcolm in the Middle. For sure.
Yeah, totally.
Except I'm like Lois and Andelin is like Hal.
Kind of. Yeah, that might be sort of accurate. You hear a lot of people talk about balance. And there's also people who say that balance isn't actually a thing. It's not actually something that you can achieve. And if you're thinking of balance as an equal percentage of time given to each bucket, then they're probably right. You can't really find balance. But the thing is, balance is a moving target. As your life changes, so do your needs, the needs of those around you. And so the way that you need to spend your time will also change. And because it's a moving target, as soon as you feel like you have it figured out, then suddenly something changes and you got to figure it out all over again. But that's just the process of life. That's just the process of being intentional about your life and taking care of the things that you want to take care of. And we're actually about to go through another transition right now with your job going from night shift to day shift. It's an opportunity to reevaluate how things are going and to make some changes and hopefully make things better.
Yeah.
Something that I've noticed for myself is that when I am not being mindful about my life, I end up doing things where I'm basically trying to avoid my life. I would rather escape into a really great TV series, or maybe I'd spend a little bit more time on social media than I had planned. I'm sort of just avoiding my life. And when you spend whatever amount of time in those types of activities, that's time that you're taking away from actually filling your buckets. And since I have learned how to notice this and manage it, suddenly I'm like, look at all this extra time and energy that I have to do the things that I want to do, rather than quote-unquote wasting all this precious time doing something that I don't really care that much about. So if you feel like, but my life is already so full of things, how am I supposed to do one more thing? How do I make this work because I'm already so busy? I would say look for those little pockets of time that you're just mindlessly scrolling or watching a YouTube video that you don't even care about. Or, I mean, not that doing any of those things is bad or wrong, but if those things are replacing the important things, that's when it becomes a problem. If it's getting in the way of what you truly want, then you can look at those pockets of time and say, what am I trying to avoid? And then really facing that and actually processing whatever it is that you are afraid of. When you stop doing the things you really don't want to do, you have so much more time for the things that you truly want to do.
Right.
There is a quote from the TED Talk that we've been referencing that really spoke to me, and I'm going to read it to you. The small things matter. Being more balanced doesn't mean dramatic upheaval in your life. With the smallest investment in the right places, you can radically transform the quality of your relationships and the quality of your life.
So take time and listen to that TED Talk. Hopefully you've all taken a little bit from this podcast, been able to take a few bites of information, and hopefully you'll be able to use it in your life so that your marriage doesn't bite.
Yep.
So have a great week, everybody.
See you next week.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Marriage Bites podcast.
Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the fun.
Let us know what you took away from this episode by sending us an email at info@andelinprice.com.
You can also see what we're up to on Facebook and Instagram at Andelin Price Coaching. Or you can visit my website, andelinprice.com, to learn more. See you next week.
Bye. I keep wanting to call it a podcast, but it's a TED Talk. That's not how we operate, though, for Rails. That would be illegal.
Yes. And awkward.
Quite awkward. Because, then your teenager would have to be feeding the bad guy in handcuffs.
Oh my gosh. So back to what we were talking about.